you're working from home, then you must be living the dream. Well, that's what a lot of people say, but the truth is that's not always the case. So today's video, I thought I'd like to share with you some of the myths and misconceptions about working from home or working remotely. Now, before we start, let's just set the terms straight. When you're working from home, that means you're also working remotely. But when you're working remotely, that doesn't mean you're just working from home. It can be working from anywhere. And you can also be a full-time employee, a part-time employee, a freelancer, an individual, independent contractor. It depends on your arrangement with your company, employer, client, or whoever it is that you have an agreement with. So we are going to be interchangeably using working from home and working remotely, but the general premise is the same. You're not working on site, you're not working in the office. A lot of influencers you will see online will probably give you the best picture they can give of working remotely. Think cozy cafes or coffee shops, really nice beaches, maybe under the galaxy, at the top of a mountain, or maybe even under Aurora Borealis. We never know. But really, it's not all glitters and glamour. I know that for a fact because I've been working from home since 2016. First misconception, work from anywhere, anytime. Well, the reality is technically can work anywhere or anytime, but not everywhere. The explanation for that is, again, I've explained earlier that you can have a different type of work arrangement from other people. So if you are a full-time employee, employed by an actual employer or a company, you might not be allowed to work at the top of a mountain or at the beach. Maybe it's because of security reasons or privacy issues, and that you're required to really just work at the comforts of your home because you can put up your computer and your home office without any distractions at all. I know that online, a lot of influencers, and I'm not like shading all influencers, it's just that you can see it everywhere, laptops on the beach or anywhere they can think of, they make it look like remote workers or work from home workers can just set up anywhere. I personally cannot do that. I don't think I can stay an entire day at a coffee shop that is so noisy because that just messes up with my productivity. I prefer to be working in a quiet, slightly moody environment. So we all have different preferences, but the most important thing is we need a stable internet connection, a distraction-free environment, and practical or ergonomic setups to avoid hindrance or to avoid anything that can stop us from working productively. And not only that, you'd also want to avoid burnout or avoid back pain or things that might stop you from giving your best work. So it can be a bit misleading when people say that you can work anytime and anywhere. At the same time, you have to consider time zones. A lot of those working remotely or working from home have clients who are based in another country. So say you're in the Philippines and your client is in the US, you're technically like halfway around the world from them. And you have to understand that when you start working remotely, you still need to be available at a certain hour, a certain time. So if you need to be available at 5 a.m. for them, then you can't be sitting at a coffee shop for that, right? You have to be in a distraction-free environment to take or accept calls from your team or from your managers. So it really depends. You have to think about that. It's not always like you can just go out, run an errand, and bring your laptop. That's virtually impossible. Okay, the next misconception is they say you have more freedom and less stress. Well, the truth is that working from home or remotely can easily blur boundaries, So instead of freedom, you might actually be stressed. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat things because, again, I worked remotely or from home for so many years. And although I love it, I really, really love working from home, most of the time, you really can't avoid distractions. A lot of people start their day early just to, make most out of the time. But then there are also people who are not really used to having that kind of environment at home. So if that's not a conducive environment for you, then you'll be more stressed, in your home or somewhere outside of the office. A lot of people working from home have a hard time setting boundaries, not just emotional boundaries, but also physical boundaries. I'm gonna admit that it was a bit hard for me at the beginning. Right now, there are still times when I struggle with that because I'm home. So from time to time, some people would come up to me, my family, my husband, my son, or whoever would come up to me to ask me to do something or to check on something for them. And it does distract you. And that can really have a negative impact in terms of separation between work and, the things that you do at home. So in turn, it can be stressful if you keep addressing these people while you still have work to do. And it did happen to me a lot of times. It's not because they just intentionally want to distract me. My family is very understanding of what I do, and when I'm working, they just really let me do the things that I need to complete so that, I could be with them right away. But sometimes you really can't avoid problems or struggles, right? So you have to think about that. And I guess, one way you can address that is to just really set expectations with your family that although you're working from home, you are still obliged or obligated to fulfill your job responsibilities. It's just like working in an office. Like they can't just come up to you in the office and ask you to do something. It's the same when you are at home. Another thing is that when you're working from home or remotely, there's almost always like the pressure to be always on or available. Now, it depends on your client, employer, or whoever, what kind of arrangement or what kind of thing they have about that. When I was starting, I would always feel pressured to reply right away or just, be available right away. But again, that doesn't help with boundaries, right? Some people or some clients would expect you to respond promptly, even if it's outside of your working hours, which can suck, it's really difficult. It's going to increase your stress level and anxiety because, oh my God, I'm already spending time with my family, but people still can't stop messaging me. That happens too when you're in an office setting, but more so when you are in a remote environment. And because of that, the freedom that you're thinking of having is just gone like that. And the best way to address that is, of course, always set expectations, not just with your family at home, but also, have that talk or conversation with your employer or with your client as to communication hours or times. Like you're not supposed to reply after hours or during weekends or whatever your off days are. I think that would really help a lot. The third misconception is they say working remotely is great for productivity. Now, it's not always the case. You can be productive and you can also be sleazy or not productive throughout the day. You do avoid the commute, the distractions in the office, yes, but there are also distractions at home like chores or maybe your children needing something from you, or even just the temptation to relax, watch Netflix or YouTube. Some people thrive in that kind of environment, but others also struggle with that. So if you're the type of person who easily gets distracted, then work from home or working remotely may probably not be for you. However, there's also a workaround on that. You can always go to a quiet coffee shop if you have the resource or if you have extra funds, if you have the budget for it. Or in my case, I would also go to a co-working space, which is a dedicated working space where you can be by yourself, be focused on work and just be productive. In most cases, your productivity doesn't really depend on where you are or the location, but it's really your discipline or your focus, the way you set up your environment. So if, say you are at home, how do you set up your environment in such a way that, you are going to focus on, let's say, working from 7 a.m. to 12 noon, and just making sure that you are getting work done instead of slacking or relaxing at home when you're not supposed to. The next misconception: remote workers have great work-life balance. I think that's one of the things that I really love about working from home. It's because you can somehow take charge of your work-life balance. I do really, really love working remotely and from home. Sometimes though, it can get a bit overwhelming because earlier I mentioned about boundaries. And a lot of remote work is struggling to set that boundary and then really turning off from work when they're done. Just imagine when you have been working at home or remotely for, let's say, 5 hours, you don't necessarily notice that. And even if, let's say, you should be out by 5 p.m., but you still need to finish something, it can go on until the night time or even until midnight and you're not even noticing it, or you might have noticed it but you're just not minding it because you're home anyway. There's nowhere to go to, you're already there, so might as well finish it, or might as well finish the job. Now that can be that can be riskier, that can be dangerous for your physical and mental health, because essentially you are overtiming. Is that a word? You're rendering overtime with no pay. And I admit, I'm guilty of that too sometimes, because there's always a need for me to finish something right away and not wait for tomorrow. I think it can be both a blessing and a curse to me, but it does also result to longer working hours. So think about that as well. Again, there's always a way to address that. Build your routine and make sure that when you're supposed to stop by 5 p.m., then you stop. I mean, even though you're still not finished with the task, your manager is supposed to know that you're not a robot. You can't finish everything in one day. And as long as you communicate that with him or her, then I think you can achieve that work-life balance that you are looking for. Next misconception: people think that everyone or anyone can do remote work, or anyone can work from home. The reality is that some people really thrive in that kind of environment wherein they're just left at home, given the time and the space and freedom to work by themselves. And I think I thrive in that environment. I can definitely work from home or remotely where no one is looking at me like a hawk or really watching over me. I can't work in that kind of environment, by the way. I can't tolerate micromanagement. So thankfully, I'm in an environment where I'm given the freedom to do what I need to do and just, be sure that I submit or I provide great output. And yeah, work gets done. That's it. But some people would also love to be in a team environment, really be in a group setting in an actual office location, and that's fine because they thrive in talking to people, they thrive in collaboration, and I think it's just really a matter of where you want to be, where you thrive. Now, if you still want to try looking for jobs that are available from home or are remote, then you might need to consider that, or maybe that you can also try looking for hybrid arrangements wherein you can be at the office maybe 3 times a week, things like that. Again, there's always a way to address all of those things. Also, you have to think that when you're working remotely, it is and can be a bit lonely because you don't have anyone to talk to. Maybe you can talk to someone through chat or through phone, but it's really different when you are in an office wherein you will be able to speak with people face to face. But well, if that's not your thing, work from home or remote work might be fit for you. The last misconception I want to share is that people think that work from home or remote setup is easy to achieve. The truth is that it's not cheap, it's not easy. So if you're just coming from an on-site job and then you're planning to work from home, you have to think that you need to spend for your own setup first, unless of course your employer or your client is providing that. If you are working from home, I don't think your employer or client would be able to give you the setup right away. So you have to, get ahead of the game by having your own setup, like computers, one or two computers, I don't know, but one computer will do, or one laptop will do. It depends on the type of work that you are performing. And of course, you'll need to have an ergonomic chair because you'll be sitting for the most part of your day. And if you don't have the right chair for the job, good luck to you because, even if you're young, you will really feel the back pain from sitting the entire day. Okay, now another thing is a quiet space at home. Not a lot of residences are quiet. Again, it depends on the family living in it. Maybe you're living with an extended family, especially here in the Philippines. So think about that and try to carve out a niche or like a corner in your house to be, focused and productive at work. Working from home or remotely may not be that very glamorous dream that a lot of people paint it out to be. It can be very fulfilling though, as it did to me. I was very happy and I'm still, very happy about my arrangement. I've declined so many job opportunities because they're all on site or that I had to report at an office. This is really like the arrangement that I want. But again, it comes with a lot of challenges and a lot of things that you need to address. Although you can always do something about them. So if you are planning to look for remote jobs, then just make sure that you've thought about it and you have really planned out the setup at home or your tech and everything else, like even your mindset, like how you're going to be productive at home compared to your previous life in the office. So I wish you all the best in your job application or looking for remote jobs. If you have any questions at all, and maybe even any other topics related to work from home, please feel free to comment below and I'll make sure to reply. See you again next time. Bye.